Welcome to the Jay Kim Show. This is your host, Jay Kim. I am an investor, author, and fitness entrepreneur, and for the first time in Asia, I sit down with the world's most brilliant minds in business, investing, and entrepreneurship. You'll learn all the secrets, strategies, and formulas to becoming a successful entrepreneur directly from the masters. If this is your first time listening, thank you for stopping by. This podcast is produced every week with the goal of providing actionable insight to you, the listener, with every single episode. And now, on to the show. Today we have a very special episode. We sit down with Gary Vaynerchuk. Gary V is one of these natural-born entrepreneurs. He was hustling around at the age of 5, setting up lemonade stands and selling baseball cards, making thousands of dollars a week. He then took his family's wine business from $3 million in annual revenue to $60 million in just 5 years. Now, he runs VaynerMedia, which is one of the world's hottest digital and social media marketing agencies. He's also a prolific angel investor, investing in companies like Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and Uber. He is a New York Times bestselling author of 4 books, popular podcaster, inspirational public speaker, and all-around entrepreneurial giant. I'm a huge fan of Gary's, and if you know him or follow any of the content that he pumps out on a daily basis, you will know that he's a very busy guy. We're extremely lucky to have him on the show, and he talks about the most important aspect of being an entrepreneur. It's not something that you would probably think of right off the bat. He also talks about where he thinks attention will be in 2017. If you know him at all, you know he's very big on attention. I think you're going to love the episode. Let's jump right in. Get ready to hear some gold. Okay, so Gary V, you are obviously a world-renowned entrepreneur. Unfortunately for my audience here out in Asia, and I apologize for this, many people probably don't know who you are.
That's much more my fault than theirs. And honestly, it's actually one of the things sitting in my life that I'm most excited about, which is my, future plans of expansion of the content and travels and the speaking and the offices. It's almost like a whole new frontier opportunity, right? So, and by the way,
Right.
The way the world is fragmented, even in the United States, within social media, where it's probably my biggest crossover of ability of being known, I'm always aware of where I actually sit in the lexicon. So I'm excited, and I appreciate you having me on, and I'm excited for so many people hearing me for the first time.
No, absolutely. And I think herein lies the opportunity. And this is why, me and Alex first connected. So I think, you're going to have a huge opportunity coming forward. And we're going to get into sort of your views on Asia and China later on. But so you're an entrepreneur. You were like a born and bred sort of real, entrepreneur sort of in your blood. Why don't you just run us real quick through your story?
Yeah.
And then also about specifically your parents and how supportive they were, because so the thing is within Asian culture, and it might be similar to your culture,
It is.
it's not supported, and a lot of, my father, for example, was first generation immigrant from Korea to the US, and he struggled himself to pay the bills and whatnot, and so he would be very against, he'd probably disown me if I said, oh, I'm going to go be an entrepreneur. He's like, no, get a stable job, right?
Education was the way out.
Exactly.
So I was born in the Soviet Union, obviously a different version of communism, especially in the 70s. Obviously, I think for people that have parents or grandparents that grew up in communist Asia, they can relate much more than my American contemporaries. We got out of there luckily in the late 70s when I was a kid. We came to America, we were super poor. My parents are very much my heroes. They built their American dream. My dad, used to drive from Queens to New Jersey to get paid $2 an hour to be a stock boy in a liquor store. It was very much that kind of thing. I was entrepreneur from the get, lemonade stands, baseball cards, that kind of stuff. When I was 10, 11, 12, I was making, hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars a weekend selling baseball cards in the malls of New Jersey. So kind of knew I had it from a very, very, very young age. Probably, if you look at the graph, as soon as I kind of knew I had it, 4th grade was right around the time my grades started to slip. I was just very self-aware. I talk a lot about self-awareness. I just knew who I was. And I really genuinely, I don't talk about this a lot. I genuinely believed that my schooling career was going to be my last great vacation. And so I kind of took advantage of it that way. And I thought I could get a real head start and be educated. And, I'm scared to think what I would have looked like if the internet was around, because I probably forget about graduating college or even high school. I'm not sure I would have graduated grammar school. So my dad dragged me into the liquor store when I was 14 that he now owned. I fell in love with wine collecting and the culture of wine. Thought I could build a big business in 1996. At 21 years old, I launched one of the first e-commerce wine businesses in America. And from 1998 to 2003, in that 5-year window, I grew my dad's business from a $3 to a $60 million business using modern digital tactics, right? Email marketing, e-commerce itself at the time, Google AdWords, blogger outreach. Then YouTube came along. I started a wine show. That was right around the time Twitter and Facebook were kind of doing their thing as well. I used those platforms to build my brand and became an investor in Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. Blew up on the social media scene, the Web 2.0 scene as it was originally called. Was one of the 25 most followed people on Twitter in the early days. And my career took a big turn.
Right. When you were 14, though, your
Yes.
dad dragged you into the wine business. That must have been kind of like, Dad, I'm trying to hustle. I'm trying to be an entrepreneur here. Why are you doing this to me?
You know what? When you're 14, and I think a lot of people know this, like, I'm sure that crossed my mind, but there was just there's no debating or negotiating with immigrant parents, right? Like,
That's true. That's
so
true. Very true.
For a lot of people, that was get good grades and there was nowhere to go. My mom punished me for bad grades, but she quietly created an interesting framework of what I would call light lines in the sand, right? Movable lines in the sand. She didn't want me to be disrespectful or completely punt it and become a degenerate, but she absolutely gave me the freedom to do my thing. You know, it's funny, I just dug up my report card. In my entire high school career, I got 4 A's, all in gym. You know, so I was far from a scholar. And so I think that it was tough. I went from being my own boss, making $800 a weekend, $1,400 a weekend, to making $30 a weekend, bagging ice for 15 hours a day in a liquor store. But at the same token, I just kind of wanted to support my family's thing and was willing to pay my dues and was thankful for my parents coming to this country. Even at that age, knew that what they did was special and wanted to support our thing.
Right, right. So it's kind of like, okay, fine. You drag me into the family business. I'm still an entrepreneur. Watch this. Watch what I'm going to do with the family business.
Yes.
And then I'm going to go and take off.
Yes. When I realized that I didn't want to sell beer and liquor, but when I realized there was a culture around wine and wine collecting, I saw the storytelling, I saw the creativity, I saw the marketing, and I really ran with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So here's a funny story, Gary. I actually found you back in 08, 09 on YouTube. So my girlfriend, who's my wife now, girlfriend at the time, her mom is a big wine person. So I was kind of surfing around on the web. I was like
trying to impress.
Exactly trying to impress. And I stumbled upon your YouTube channel. I was like, wow, this guy is interesting because, you know, he's actually, I saw the one where you in like half an hour you do like how to expand your palate.
Yes.
And yeah, awesome episode.
By the way, the episode that put me on the map, and I don't remember, I think it's, episode 174 or something like that, talk about patience. Nobody was watching the show. That episode where I taste all those different flavors and went to the supermarket and Twizzlers and dirt and flowers, as you saw.
Yes, that's the one.
That episode made the front page of Dig. There was no bigger get in 2008 on the web than getting on the front page of Dig. Right. That made a lot of people aware of me. That started Kevin Rose becoming aware of me, which helped me get on Dig Nation, his blog, which helped me spike aggressively in the Twitter following count. So very, very important episode creatively for me.
That was amazing. So you went from that, and then I actually I lost
touch. Makes sense.
Yes. Yep. And then boom, 5 years later, you are everywhere, right? So unbelievable ascent.
Thank you.
And I read Crush It probably maybe a couple years after that, which by the way changed my life as well. And I'm sure you hear that all the time. Awesome book.
It's funny. I'm putting the pieces together to write a book called Crushed It. So if it did change your life, I'd love for you to send me an email in detail, because I'm going to write an updated version of it, how to build personal brand in this new environment and why the opportunity is greater than ever. But I also want to feature 30, 40, 50, 70 people who actually read the book and had tangible results happen.
Yep, I will absolutely do that.
Please.
So you go from there, and now you are everywhere. You're an investor. You are running a multi-million dollar digital marketing agency. You have you still have your wine business running. How do you manage to keep? I mean, you obviously have a huge team now, as well. But how do you manage to stay current and have your hands basically in everything?
By realizing there's no option, right? Like I've made my bed, now I have to sleep in it. I've positioned myself as the guy who's going to know what Marco Polo is or Musical.ly is or Snapchat is. And so kind of suffocating myself, calling my bluff, right? Like, I just have to give something else up to stay current. Having a venture firm, I'm about to close my next fund called Vayner That will help, I'm seeing stuff that helps. VaynerMedia, is now almost an 800-person firm in 5 offices, 100 million revenue business. There's a lot of innovation and thought and staying current happening through there, including now that we're doing significant amount of work with the platforms. We understand where Snapchat and Instagram and Facebook are going, sometimes even before the media or the rest of the market as a partner. So that doesn't hurt. What's funny? You know what the real answer is? Because I want to. How do I stay current? Because I want to.
Right.
Like when you want to do anything, you figure it out, right? You're giving up something else because I'm not watching this or playing that or meeting this or, doing that. And so, I do what I want to. Like I want to watch the New York Jets every weekend. And so I do that. And that takes out of family time, takes out of business time, but that's my escapism. That's my release point, right? I want to see my family and more. And so now starting this fall, I've cut out Friday nights, which used to be very, very effective for me and was a place where I'd get 4 to 6 hours worth of meetings that I couldn't fit in the rest of the week, gone. And that will mean less business results because I want to see Misha and Xander and Lizzie more. So it's choices, right? So how am I current and how am I at the forefront? Because I want to be.
Right. So let's talk about entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs. You're a born entrepreneur, and that's just in your blood, in your DNA. Some people are like that. Can entrepreneurs be made, so to speak?
Right. And by the way, not all basketball players are born like LeBron and Carmelo and Durant, right? Like I definitely believe that I was gifted more entrepreneurial upside than most people. No question. I mean, I just don't know what else to say. I mean, I know it. It's always been there. It's not ego. It's 35 years of history. I sold more lemonade than everybody. I made more money based on everybody. I built a bigger liquor store than everybody. I built a personal brand bigger than most. I've, in 4 minutes, built one of the biggest social digital agencies in the most competitive space. Like I've done it. So yeah, I've got it. But by the way, that doesn't mean, for example, I'm in much better shape than I was 24 months ago. I'm nowhere close to highly ranked in the physical specimens of the world, but I am dramatically better than I was 30 months ago. And that's how I think about it, right? Like, everybody's got a cap. I think my cap's multi-billions. I think other people's caps are several hundreds of thousands. But if that's better than having a job and not being as happy making 87, or let me throw you for a real weird loop. If people listening, what's better? Making 187,000 a year as an executive and not being that happy, or making $127 as an entrepreneur and being super happy? That's an interesting debate. It's super easy when you make more money, right? But what's the happiness kind of line versus the money line? And I think all of us have different lines, right? I leave lots of money on the table for happiness every day, and other people do as well. So yes, I do not think that all entrepreneurs are built equal. I do think that I was gifted with talent, but that's the truth in everything. Fashion designers, cooks. Beyonce was born with more singing talent than me. Can I be a better singer than I am today? I sure can. After 3 years of singing lessons, I think I'll be borderline below average, but that's a hell of a lot better than atrocious.
Right. So I love when you talk about your fitness, because I watched your transformation in the last 2 years. I'm kind of in the fitness industry myself. I do some coaching on the side. So, yes. But I always joke because I think that you have like a mini fitness accelerator going on when you probably don't even know it. Because I see these guys, Roman and Mike McCanty, anyone that basically trains you ends up going through and being successful. So it's awesome to see that.
Well, it's true. I mean, I'm doing it with Jordan now. Like, listen, when you're very close, these are full-time, you know how they roll. They're full-time. They're with me all the time. You can't help but pick up on habits. And like all of a sudden Jordan's side is like really killing it on Facebook video, which is helping his business. I mean, it's just, and by the way, their successes are a reminder to me that I'm on the right path, right?
Right.
Like I'm looking at them black and white and I'm watching their growth, and it's completely predicated on the tactics and it's the religion and the tactics.
So I want to talk about the state of entrepreneurship right now. I see, and you've talked about this in the past too, there's a lot of weird stuff going on in the online space, the current state of affairs, online businesses. What are you most afraid of right now when you see, these guys on Instagram flashing dollars and actually making money off of it? I mean, will there be a day of reckoning, or is this something that we just have to deal with, and that's part of, are they quote unquote entrepreneurs as well?
That's been part of society, like selling get rich quick schemes, and all the way down to versions of it that don't seem as bad, but in essence are still selling the same core philosophy, have been around from the moment of time. I'm sure there was a guy who was like, "Hey, caveman Rick, there's a bunch of rocks over to that hill. Give me a fur, and I'll
Yeah.
take you there." Like, I mean, that unfortunately, there's a lot of different DNA traits in the world, and so, there's people that are like posting tons of pictures of watches and airplanes, and their description is, "I can help you make $1,000 a day. Click here." That's going to happen forever, right? That's
Right.
going to happen
Right.
forever. And very honestly, that crew is really not happy with me right now. I've been noticing more negative comments about me from, millionaire, billionaire, schmillionaire handles on Insta. And that means I'm having an impact. I'm actually happy about that.
Right. I mean, and you always talk about being real, and I feel like there has to be some sort of day of reckoning. I mean, maybe
Let
not.
me tell you where the day of reckoning is. The day of reckoning is when the person that's making that money like lives their lives, and they're conscious, or their grandkids calling them out and saying you weren't authentic in the way you made your money, or a million different things that have, or them getting screwed by somebody in a bigger game. They didn't understand they made $1 million on being kind of huckstery on Instagram, but then a financial advisor hose them out of their money. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Right.
And by the way,
Yeah.
there's people that live, scam it out, get all the way to the finish line, die happy, money, power, but like, I don't know, man, like I could never, like, how you make your money is more important than how much you make. And more importantly, here's what I know. The day of reckoning for them is happening every day. It's the way that people view them in the world. And whether it's talked about or not, they want to be on that pedestal. They may have the money of that pedestal, but nobody's going to respect somebody who made $1 million in a skeezy kind of lowbrow way, the same way they're going to respect somebody who made $1 million the right way. And by the way, a lot of people say, I don't care. The truth is, that's right. You don't care when you're climbing your way to make that money. You do care when you get there. I've met all of them. And they start worrying about why they aren't on the cover of magazines. Why are they not respected? Why don't they know Zucks? Why doesn't the A-list hang with them? Why do people whisper behind their backs? Why are people like not really like inviting them to the cool shit? Why do they have to keep finding the next sucker? It gets exhausting. You become the 48-year-old dude going to like the bar trying to get 20-year-old chicks.
Yeah. Totally. Okay. Gary, you are very good at observing people and seeing trends form. And, some even call you a predictor of sorts, with YouTube, Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, what have you. You've, in the last year or so, I know you've made a huge push, Snapchat, Facebook Live, and you always talk about attention. Where's the attention going to be? So why don't you tell us where you think the attention will be in 2017?
I think much of the same, because remember, I don't predict, so I don't know, right? I think Snapchat will continue to do well. I think Instagram will continue to do well. I think Facebook will continue to do well. I think Twitter will continue to struggle. I think that Musical.ly will continue to grow. And then obviously in Asia, it's different with the WeChat or things of that nature. But I think that in the US market, WeChat got such scale and obviously had different dynamics than a full-fledged Silicon Valley capitalistic system that allowed it to scale and have that kind of monopoly. In the US, you don't have that scenario. And so tomorrow something may pop up and take the attention, right? Tumblr and Pinterest aren't as good as they were 3 years ago. They used to be top of my tongue. They no longer are. Now, now Snapchat kind of takes that role. Going way back, Ustream used to have that, right? And so,
Right.
YouTube still has it. And then you just never know. Marco Polo is an app that caught my attention, but Yik Yak was important to me for 45 minutes. The truth is, to me, it's of that day. I don't know. People always say to me, like, Gary, you always talk. Sometimes people, when they consume my content, they're like, Gary, you don't talk about stuff like, I want the details. Like you rah-rah me, but I want full details. And I'm like, gosh, I'm the easiest to get details from. Just watch what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like out of everybody, I think I'm the easiest to like get value from because my actions, like
Well,
watch.
and you also and just your books alone and your YouTube channel. I mean, you go really deep under the hood with those. Ask Gary V and jab, 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 right hook.
But what happens is somebody will follow my Instagram channel where my strategy is a little bit more quick, creative, rah, right? And I'm like, my
Right.
God, nobody does anything like Ask Gary V with that detail. And more
Right,
importantly,
exactly.
I'll never trump watching me ever. And I don't mean Daily
Right.
V, which we curate and create into something that's entertainment and context. No, I mean me. Like, watch me reply to people. Watch what I post. Watch how I post. How often do I post? Why am I linking my Musical.ly to my Instagram? Why do I mainly reply on Twitter but not post content? Why do I repeat my content on Twitter 8 times a day or 3 times a day? Because I know that people aren't seeing it. Like, watch me, right? Why do I email once a week? Why do I have a YouTube show? Why am I 90% Facebook video? Like, watch me. Like, I just love that. They're like, well, give me details. I'm like, details? Watch me. It's the most free thing of all time. Wait,
Exactly.
you're going to pay for an $800 ebook that claims details, you idiot?
All right. So Gary, have you ever been to Hong Kong before?
I haven't. I've spent no time in Asia, and I think it's, like I said, it's been building this kind of crescendo in my own mind of like going big and going, I've got an Apple TV show that's coming that will
Yes.
air in April next year that I know will maybe be the right building block to launch my, if I go, I'm going to go hard, right? I'm going to go to Asia. I'm going
Yes.
to go for 2 weeks. I'm going to do 9,700 things, so
Right.
I'm really excited about it. I've started converting some of my content into Mandarin.
Wow. Nice.
So it's very, very top of mind, but I haven't done it yet, and that's why I don't, and what's funny about me? I don't talk about it, right? The reason you don't hear me talk a lot about it is I don't want to talk that I'm going to do it.
Right.
When I do it, then I'll talk about it.
Yeah, and I think you're taking the right approach because a lot of companies come into Asia and China and they think that they can just steamroll their way in.
Impossible.
And you know what? They're out of business in 18 months.
Impossible. I was born in Russia. I know how business is done in Russia. I know how business is done in different cultures. I know how business is done in Tennessee versus New York. The naivete for the culture and the context and the angles and the relationships there's so much audacity for especially American business people, and I just will not take that approach. I'll be very calculated, very patient, very empathetic, very respectful, and most of all, I'm going to repeat it again, outrageously patient.
I love that. Okay, we're gonna look to wrap up. I know we're a little short on time. Listen, I want to ask you. Look, you talk about a lot of things: self-awareness, hustle, gratitude. You hate negativity. You're a really positive guy. You talk about passion. You've gone on the record saying that you hate complaining. So what is the single most important, if this is even possible to answer, the single most important trait to become a successful entrepreneur?
Self-awareness.
Above all else.
Above all else. Yep.
Okay.
Because once you know who you are, if you accept it, which I guess is in itself a definition of self-awareness, you can roll. I mean, I wish I was a lot of things. I wish.
Right.
But I'm not. And because I'm self-aware, that's the seed that makes everything else. I don't complain a lot because I'm happy, because things are going well, because I was self-aware and I don't put myself in a position to not succeed. And I'm even self-aware about the things that I do, like trying to bite off more than I could chew, extending myself, but I'm willing to pay the casualties or the toll for those inefficiencies and those shortcomings. So, above all else, self-awareness, above all else, man.
Got it.
Because you're allowed to then maximize your natural abilities and talents, and it's, man, above all else.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, man. You are everywhere. I mean, literally every social media channel Gary Vaynerchuk is on. Tell my listeners where the best place is to find you, and if there's any specific place that you want their attention to be, when they hear this.
At the end of the day, it comes down to wherever they consume the most or wherever's most convenient for them. Obviously, for people that are deeply entrenched in, let's say, a China social ecosystem, I'm not there yet in a meaningful way. But outside of that, I'm pretty much everywhere. So whatever works for them: LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube. You can find me.
Awesome. We'll get that all linked up. Listen, Gary, thanks so much for being on, man.
Stay well. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. All the show notes and links can be found over at jkimshow.com. Come back often and make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. Don't forget to join us next week for another exciting episode of The J. Kim Show. I'd love to hear your comments. You can find me on Twitter at jkimmer, JAYKIMMER. See you guys next week. This podcast is brought to you by Hack Your Fitness, the high achiever's guide to getting ripped in under 3 hours a week. If you're anything like me, you're probably working a full-time job or jobs and trying to find time to balance family life, social life, and last but not least, fitness. Look, I get it. I'm a full-time investor and entrepreneur myself, and father of two. So how am I able to stay fit year-round without spending hours and hours in the gym killing myself on the cardio machine? After struggling for the last 15 years trying every workout and diet under the sun, I finally designed a system that allows me to achieve and maintain single-digit body fat for life in under 3 hours a week. Cardio not required. Head on over to hackyour.fitness and download my free 13-page guide that teaches you the simple science behind efficient fitness and smart nutrition and gives you everything you need to know to finally take control of your life. That's hackyour.fitness.